G'day everyone. Now, I don't normally make videos, but I came across this really cool thing, and we found it in an old op shop in Oxley, Brisbane, Queensland. And this is what we call a folding reed organ. Now, it's made by a company called RF Stevens. If we just open up the top plate, made by RF Stevens in Kelly Street, Kentish Town. So they were operating out of this premises from about 1929 to 1951. So this organ is quite old, as you can gather. Now, they were the purpose of the folding reed organs a lot of the time was for use in war and missionaries, so that you could transport an instrument that could play music anywhere and everywhere. And the way that it works is down below, we've got these two pedals. Now the two pedals, when you press them, extends a set of bellows that are underneath, as you can see. And that then sucks air through a set of reeds, which is contained in the back of the organ here, and then creates a sound when you press these keys. Now, this reed organ is quite old and has obviously seen some moisture at some point in its life. And so, as you can see, we've got a few keys that are stuck, and there we go. There's another key that is stuck. So it needs a little bit of work. And what we are planning on doing is we are going to strip it down, clean out the insides. There's quite a few spider webs inside. We want to work out why on earth the keyboard is sticking. And then we also want to clean the reeds and also tune the reeds, and then also replace some of the fixtures like the leather strap here. And we want to also refinish the case. So just restain and reseal this case, since it looks like it has been sitting around for quite a while. And apart from that, maybe I'll just give you a bit of a here of what it sounds like at the moment. And then I will just begin disassembling it so then we can get into the insides and begin working on the keys. And that's now the top of the casement removed with the lid. And inside, we can see the controls. This is like a damper that covers the reeds. And this is another damper as well that covers the other set of reeds, the bigger set of reeds. And they are controlled by a little wire down here. So if I went over here and I pull, you'll see it moves that bit of wood to make it louder and softer. Pretty cool, hey? And now the plate that protects the whole mechanism for the keyboard has been removed. And now we're going to begin pulling apart the keyboard assembly to try and work out why the keys are getting stuck. All right, so I've removed the back bar now, which was just in between here, which was holding all the keys in. And now we can remove the keys, and inside is these two pins that help the note pivot. And now there's a line that we can follow that stops us from putting them in the wrong orientation. So now we should remove them and then have a bit of a look at what the felt is doing in there. So we've now removed more of the keys, and a lot of them are very, very rusty. So they just need a bit of polishing, and you can see that the moths have had at the felt a bit. So we probably want to fix that as well. So now we'll just remove all the rest of the keys, and we're just putting them in order on the ground, and then we can clean them up. So now we've removed all the keys, and if we look closer, I'm not sure whether you can see if it focuses. These are quite corroded, all of these. These ones generally look pretty fine, but the felt is pretty stuffed, so we might have to replace that. And then we found that these are actually the springs that push the keys back up, and they're actually just dowels that come out, and they just go down into the spring down there. So now I guess we look at getting some new felt for this, and then also trying to work out a few of the other problems and get some sandpaper to redo these pins. So this is now the action as it sits. Just going to undo all the screws around here, and then hopefully lift it all the way up and then transport it over to our table. Now we got a whole heap of other things which we'll clear up later. So we've got some pleather. This pleather we'll be using for the porting on the bellows to help seal. And then we've got various different kinds of felt. And this felt will hopefully replace all of the stuff that is completely eaten out by moths. We also have a little bit of leak seal, which we're hoping we can repair the bellows with, just because we don't necessarily want to replace them because they aren't completely cracked. There's just a few cracks along the joints. And then we also got like a tack hammer and a few pliers and different things and some sanding stuff so that we can then sand all of the pins. Now we've got the case and the action is fully out. And the bellows are looking a little worse for wear now. So we're just going to work out what we're going to do. We've got all the keys over here, so we might actually work on trying to get the keys up and running. And we've also got an ultrasonic cleaner on the way for the reeds. So we'll then just work on trying to detach the bellows and then also work on getting the keys to move easily. So now we are just trying to remove the bellows assembly from this top part. And we've just found a little screw which is hidden by a bit of felt. So we just got to remove that and hopefully we can get all the bellows off and have a better look. Now we are at the bellows. And over here we've now got the action. Interestingly, underneath, if you'll see, there's lots of little spines. So we've got to prop it up so then we don't bend those spines. There's also a whole heap of springs that essentially is what makes this action work. Here is the underside. And what we're doing now is removing these to hopefully free the springs. So then we can open this up and really have a good look at what the material is doing in here. We have a mounting pile of parts and the bellows, which are out now. And we're just trying to inspect and have a bit of a look at what the material is doing. Out here, just ready to paint it, and we found that it actually opens all the way and it becomes essentially a reservoir for the air. So what we've done is we've taken our Rust-Oleum, a rubber sealant, and we've just gone through and we've painted the corners. Now it looks like someone's actually already gone through here and patched it before, but the patches are quite perished in comparison to the original material. So we've just painted the patches and painted around the patches. And from pumping it and examining it a little bit further, these actually look like they're the biggest problem because they are the ones that seal the ports and they're just not doing their job at the moment. So we have a bit of pleather from Spotlight, which we should be able to attach onto it and hopefully fix it. So now we're working on the action, and we've just gone and scraped off all of the perished, oh, there's a little bit of it, all the perished felt. And now we're going to work on polishing the pins. We've got a set of different sandpapers, and we're just going to have at it and see whether we can fix these up. Alright, so we've just finished polishing. We've just mainly tried to get most of the corrosion off, and as long as they're smooth we're not too worried. So we've hit it with, I think it's a 240.
That one there is really coarse.
But what we'll now do is we will hit it with a 400 just to polish them up. Some of them still look a little bit corroded, but overall it's pretty good at the moment. And then what we're going to do is start replacing all the felts. Slowly but surely, it's becoming more of a mess. So over here, we're now starting to pull apart the assembly even further. We actually found out that these are hinges. They're made out of felt and like covered in, I don't know, some kind of lacquer glue kind of thing. And down here is the new felt that we just installed on the pins.
What a beautiful job.
So now, what we're going to do is we need to now remove the rest of their assemblies, and we're just going to put them up here and keep adding felt now. And now we have replaced all the felting, so it's just 1 centimetre of felt strip, and it's just doubled up for this front bit and then one on the back. So we've got thicker and thinner felt that we're using at the moment. We're finally into the reeds. You can see they're a little bit corroded, and I'm not sure whether you can see, but very faintly they each have a note inscribed on them. Unfortunately, there's no mark of which octave they're in, which means we need to be careful. So we just got done refelting a lot of this. We still need to trim this one, but these two have now been refelted. And then over here we've got the casement, and then over here we're now just working on, we've just pulled off all of the, I don't know what you would call them, but they were like dampers. They kind of close over the reeds and stop the air from flowing. Now down here, all of this is all seized completely, so we're going to remove that and then just sand it down a bit, so then hopefully it will all work a bit better. And now, after one day, we've got it all stripped down, removed a lot of the bits and pieces that move. We pulled apart this whole assembly over here. It was very, very seized, and just cleaned it up. It looked like someone had like stained the wood, and it had essentially become sticky underneath and then completely seized. So we just sanded it all down and then put a bit of graphite in between the joints to try and make it smoother. And then through here, we've got all the other bits that are just waiting. They're drying at the moment, all refelted with complete new felt. We've got the pleather over there ready to redo the bellows, and the bellows are just outside now, getting ready to, they're basically curing for 24 hours. And then after that, we will attach the little strips of leather to hopefully fix the porting. And yeah, that's the end of day one. All right, so we're on to day 2 of the repair. And if you have a look, the rubber's starting to harden, which is nice. And now we're about to remove all the fixtures off of the casement. So just remove a lot of the hinges, just so then we can easily sand it, and then we're going to apply a clear coat to it. We're now outside, got the casement here, and we've just got a new Ryobi orbital sander, some sanding sheets, and the new varnish, the new clear that we're going to be putting on. And now we're going to get started. And now it's all been sanded, and we're going to lay down a clear coat on it. Alright, so just been sanding the casement for the last about 40 minutes. It's coming up good. And here is the lid. It's been sanded, and the first coat of clear has gone on it. Obviously they must have stained it, because the original colour was much darker than this one, but I think it's rather good and shows the age in the wood grain as well. So a quick update on the build. We've now got some corners. They're nicely polished, and we've made more progress on the casement. We've done most of the sanding. Now the lid is also being sanded, and then we'll put some clear on it. We've decided to leave the legs because they're in relatively good nick apart from the dust. So we'll leave those, and it'll be a bit two-tone, I guess, because the legs will be a darker brown, and the lid, which has now got a clear coat, is this kind of colour. So it's got 2 coats on it at the moment, and we're going to do a 3rd coat very soon. So that's the update so far. And now we found a chip that came with it, and we actually have now re-glued it. We've also re-glued another chip that came off when we removed the corner. And yeah, all right. This is essentially day 3 of working on the organ. We'll have a bit less time today, but here are the 2 parts. So I just glued on the 2 bits that were missing, and they're looking nice and dry now. Just had some weight on it to hold it, because I think the piece that had broken off was quite warped. And now we're going to continue sanding this, just thinking possibly won't sand this part because it's mostly covered by the action, and the legs I think I'll leave the current colour that they are. They're in very good nick. And over here I'm going to lay down the 3rd coat onto this lid. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so just got all the sanding and the prep done for this case and the lid. I'm still of 2 minds as to whether I'm going to sand the inside and redo the inside, or whether I'm going to leave it with the original finish. But we'll just wait and see how it looks once it's got a clear on it, and once we have the 2 bits together. Alrighty, so 3rd coat on the lid is done, and 1st coat on the casement and the back panel are done. What I didn't account for was the fact that the glue actually stopped the clear from soaking into the wood, so it actually kind of created this very ugly strip. So I had to go through with the sander and a chisel and try and remove the excess glue, and then it's a little bit better, but I guess, yeah, there's a bit of a different looking patch, but I guess it goes with the kind of imperfect look of this. And interestingly, when I had a look at both sides originally, I thought, oh, well, maybe there was something that happened and that's why there's a completely different shade of wood. It's more pronounced on this side, but it looks like it's possibly a completely different type of wood that has been used to either repair it, or possibly these organs had a different type of wood for the bottom section of this of the crate. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and start polishing some corners again, and then I'm not particularly sure whether I'm going to end up polishing all the hardware, like all the screws and stuff, but definitely the corners at least. So, day 4 now. Plan for today is I want to get the 2nd and 3rd coats done on these 2 pieces, and over here I've also got some rust converter and some clear gloss, both for the corners and also for all the handles and hardware. And then one other thing that I want to do is work on the bellows and replace those flaps on the bellows that covers the porting. And then hopefully tomorrow we can start putting it back together. So 2nd coat is done, 3rd coat will be done a little bit later today. And now I think I'm going to work on the handles and stuff. I want to paint these handles black. I'm still debating about these because they're actually made out of brass, so maybe I'll polish them. But yeah, let's get on to that. Alright, so I've painted some of the more visible hardware. And now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the corners again, just trying to get them polished up, and then I will lacquer them with a clear coat, so then hopefully they'll protect it from tarnishing again. 3rd coat is now done on the casement, and while I've been waiting for the 2nd coat to dry, I've been working on all the brass bits. And over here I have some of the screws, and they're all getting nice and dry, so I think alongside the brass bits I will also clear coat all of these, just to make them nice and shiny. So the clear has now been done on the brass corners and also on the handles and the fixtures for the leather strap. I've also decided to blacken the heads of some of the screws just to make it look a little bit cleaner. So we're now back working on the actual action and the bellows. So here is the bellows. We, of course, did a quick repair with some rubber cement. So if it opens, as you can see, it's not particularly neat, but it definitely will help seal up this whole situation. Now, what we're looking to replace are these things here. Now, what we'll probably use is some pleather, which I've got over here. Right, now as you can see, we have removed these. They're quite perished, as you can see by me bending it. They're almost completely perished. So let's cut some new ones out of this and put them on here. Also, just quickly, look at these tacks. Super tiny, handmade, very cool. Okay, so we now have our nice pleather strips. I'll probably go furry side down, which might help with sealing. And now I'm going to put it back here and put the nails in essentially the same spots. And the flaps have now been installed. And so this is actually what they call a suction organ. So it essentially sucks the air in through the portholes, through the reeds essentially. And as these go down, see how it lets the air out? So this is a suction organ. Now, I think I'm going to replace some of the felting on these pieces here. And then after that, I think we'll finish up for today. Still a little bit more refelting. Just refelted this piece, which slots in between the key tongues. And then over here, I also refelted the top plate that goes over the keys, over the back of the keys. And then I also noticed that there is yet another set of reeds. So I removed kind of like the piece of wood that covers the porting. And yeah, so it looks like I'll have my work cut out for me when the ultrasonic cleaner comes. So next day now, and I've just reattached the bellows with the new flaps and the repaired holes, and have now reattached the action to it. And now I'm going to reattach some of the pieces that basically give the swell to this organ. And then I will put it into the case, so then I can begin cleaning the reeds and tuning. So, as usual, I rushed the previous process of getting these two parts back together, and I realised that I forgot to put the springs back. Anyway, I've reinstalled the springs, as you can see, the brass springs. Flip this over and let's put the action back. And hopefully that's the last time that I'll have to separate these. All right, let's get onto it. Now the action is back together for the second time round with the bellows. What I'm thinking is that I'll leave most of this off, as this will go on after the tuning of all of the reeds. But what I'll do is I'll bring the case up, I'll reinstall some of these bits and pieces, and then let's insert this into the case to make it a little bit easier to tune. Now I have all the parts back upstairs. I'm really, really happy with how the cabinet looks now, the lid and the back and the main case. I think it's nice because it kept a lot of the kind of marks and everything that were already on the case and the interesting patina. I've decided against blackening these latches, although I have blackened the handles, but we'll just see as I put it together what I think, and then whether I'll bother to blacken them later. Okay, time to try and install these onto that and then into there. Rightio, so that was an absolute operation to get in, but it's now back in its case. Scuffed up the paint job just a touch, but that should be fine. That's all internal. And now we're basically waiting on the ultrasonic cleaner. Once that arrives, then after that I can start cleaning some of the reeds. But now it definitely has a lot more air, and it's actually sounding quite good. I think all the reeds just need a really good clean to make sure that they speak. It seems like we've been taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. So I started removing the reeds, of which I've almost done. This one was very painful to remove, but I've almost finished removing all the reeds and placing them over here, if it would focus, to be cleaned and tuned. Now, I originally was thinking that I would leave the action in the case, as it would make it a bit easier to play, but in the end I found that one of the swell levers or pedals that you operate with your knee was actually interfering with the reeds that were along here. So I actually had to remove the action once again, then to remove the reeds. And it was the same along this edge. There was actually a bit of a lip caused by the case, which was actually stopping the reeds from coming out. So now I guess the action's just going to remain out for the time being until all of the tuning and everything is done. And then after that, yeah, so we're basically just waiting on the ultrasonic cleaner. Next step that I want to do is I want to replace all of the felts on the inside. And then I also want to just fix up one of those swell levers. And I also want to fix this one up. As you can see, the felt is slowly shifting out. So find a better solution to keeping that in. And yeah. And now I have removed all the felt and vacuumed it, ready to then apply new felt. I don't think I have to do too much else to this. I want to work on the linkage on the other side and install that and replace all the felts in it. And then after that, I also want to replace the felts in that. And then it's really just a matter of putting the reeds in and tuning. All right, quick little update. Just fixed up some of the felting in that little knee swell, and then also redid the felting in these two it's the slot where this mechanism comes up, and you can move the lever to open and close the flaps to allow the air through to the reeds. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the main action, and I'm going to clean up this side just with a bit of sandpaper, clean up all the residue that's there, graphite it again. And I also fixed up this as well. I pulled it all apart, graphited, replaced the 2 felts, and now it is nice and smooth. So let's get on with it. Great, so just got the all new felts installed, and I also cleaned up around here where the linkage is going to be installed. It just looks a bit black because I've used a bit of graphite to lubricate it. And now there's not really too much to do now. I think it's just a matter of leaving this to dry, and then hopefully we receive what is required to be able to clean these very soon. Okay, so that's probably it for today. Right, so out here we have an ultrasonic cleaner. I'm just getting set up, and I just ran a read through it before, and you can see the color difference. It's removed a lot of the kind of corrosion off it. There's still a little bit of corrosion towards the bottom, but it is looking much better. So I'm gonna now go through and clean up all of these reeds. So all the reeds are now done. It took the better part of a day, and they've all been done by the ultrasonic cleaner. As you can see, there's still some that are a little bit grubby, but the main thing was I was trying to get most of the corrosion off of the tongues of the reeds. So it's looking quite good now. And now we're on to the tuning process. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll slot them back into here, and I'll have to do it while the action is still out, so I'll have to just hand pump the bellows. And then try and work out, using this, what it is tuned to. So a lot of the instruments back then weren't tuned to A equals 440. A lot of them were actually tuned to 452, 435, and a whole range of different tunings. So I'll have to work that out. And then after that, I have some 120 sandpaper, which I'll rip a little corner out of. And this then slips somewhat like this in between the reed. And then after that, I can just take a little bit of sandpaper. If it is sharp, I will remove some material from here. If it is flat, then I'll remove some material from here, essentially changing how many times it vibrates per second. So now I've only got about 150 to do. So we're now back to putting on the flaps, and then I'm going to start reinstalling all of the action, all of the keys and everything, and then hopefully we can start getting it into there, into the case, and then I'll just do any little bits of tuning that need to be done, but if not, then after that it's final assembly. And now we've got the covers over the top that can be operated by the knees, then for dynamics, and we've put back all the pins that have been polished and are now testing out the keys. They all just need to be graphited, and if we just hold back here, press, they need to be held a little bit better, but yeah, you can see that they at least return a bit. Once they're properly done with some graphite, it'll be much better. We're now on the home stretch, just working on refitting the keys, and currently I'm just colouring in these different slots with graphite to hopefully make them work better on here. And just been reinstalling all the linkages. I actually realized this after I installed almost a quarter of the keys. So I had to pull it all apart again, open this up, and then reinstall these. And then I realized that one of the brackets is missing. So I'm trying to use a bit of pleather, and then I'm going to tack it on. Let's get started. And now the little bracket made out of pleather is installed, and the keys are starting to go on. Now to do the rest of them. And now almost all the keys are in, and this is the last one to go in, right on the end. Bit hard to do it through the camera though. There we go. And right, so now I need to chuck in, as you can see, they're all a bit all over the place because I need to chuck in this little kind of retainer. So I'm now going to install that, and then guess what? This is done and goes into here. And now all the keys on, and they all work. They all rebound, none of them are stuck. And that means the whole action is now done. So now into the case it goes, and a few trim pieces to go on top. So here it is, all done. Well, not really done, but mostly done. All the corners, all polished, fully redone case. All the insides, if we pull this open, have been refelted. All the reeds cleaned. It also needs probably a really, really good tune. Although I didn't really get round to doing a massive tune of it, as I got to work out a better way of holding up the action so that I can pump it while doing that. All of the mechanism has been refelted. All the linkages have been refelted. But still the biggest problem really is the bellows. So ultimately it's done for now, but we'll have to see whether we can get some bellows done. So let's have a listen. almost a year on from the last video, and if we go underneath here, you might remember that the pleather was actually black, and now we've replaced it with strips of this valve leather, which is made by Colombian Organ Leathers in America. And they make a variety of leathers for uses for organ manufacturers and also organ restorers. And this should hopefully mean that the bellows seal a little bit better, which means that there will be less pumping, and hopefully it will produce a much nicer sound. So this is the final cut and the final listen to the organ as it is now. I could do some further work to it, do a bit of a tune, but other than that, here it is.